Thank you. So it's a difficult it's a difficult time slot to talk immediately after lunch. The silver lining is that if you do fall asleep, I will attribute it to food coma and not to my skills as a presenter. So feel free. So thank you for the introduction. I am indeed the CEO of Mowingo. Mowingo is a startup here in Silicon Valley. We're focused on CRM for smaller merchants and give you my view of how mobile payments fit into this picture. So, initially when looking at those two pictures, to quote my teenage daughter, big whoop. So, you can replace a credit card with a smartphone, but what's in it for me, right? And I have a very simple thesis, which I believe is kind of the emerging consensus, at least that's what I heard this morning, that for mobile payments to make any sense, they must be integrated as part of a mobile commerce experience. Standalone, they bring no real value. And the way to do that is with a mobile app. And the mobile app leverages all the things that you have in a smartphone, which is the camera, which I forgot here, or at least Accenture forgot. The location, the fact that it's always on, the fact that it's a two-way communication system. And it's no surprise that, this survey that shows a massive jump over 2 years from 10 to 15% in terms of the percentage of smartphone owners that actually are interested in a wallet is very small. And the reason is that there should be value. And value can be brought into the picture just through an integration with mobile commerce and not just as an alternative payment method. So what is Mowingo and why do I have an opinion on that question at all? What we do is basically it's a CRM system that allows small merchants to enjoy the same benefits that Richard touted for companies like Walmart and Target. It's your local independent restaurant, the local florist, the local fashion store that can communicate with the customers. But let's start with the consumer view. From a consumer perspective, it's about following the places that they love. So I patronize 10, 20 places with which I have a real connection, where I'm not an occasional customer. It's an ongoing relationship. I don't want to install 30 different applications to follow those 30 places. It's also not feasible for those small merchants to develop, maintain, and get people to download those discrete applications. So if there were one application that I would download, and through this application, I'll build my own virtual mall, where all the tenants in that mall would be just the places that I actually patronize. It seems like a good idea to us a year ago when we started developing that. And also, there's a trend now, particularly in the Valley, of gamification, where everything becomes a game. If you look at the value proposition of a company like Shopkick, use Shopkick because you're going to earn kick points. We didn't take this approach. We took a more utilitarian approach. We said, what are people after? They want to get the best deal, and they want convenience. And sometimes the things are at odds, right? You may decide, I'm going to drive to the other side of the city to get 5 cents less on the gallon. Or you may decide, you know what, screw it. There's a gas right here. It's a bit more expensive, but it's more convenient. So we don't really want to take a position on that. And actually, different merchants that work with us have a different value proposition to their consumer using the same platform. It may be about discount, it may be about convenience, but it's always about this touchy-feely thing of making the consumer feel that they're an insider with the store, right? So imagine a scenario where it's a fashion store sending you a push notification saying, hey, Daniel, we have a new collection. We'll open the door, you're VIP, we'll open the door an hour earlier for you, your first dibs on the new collection. There's no discount here, there's no coupon, okay? At the same time, if you take the view of a merchant, it's about targeted communications. It's what email marketing, and I come from a background of email marketing, that's what I've been doing past 7 years, was way back then, but with all kinds of advantages that we didn't have in email, including the fact that the device is always with you. And first and foremost, it's a CRM tool. So it's about managing a relationship with customers that you already have. But because we integrated Facebook and Twitter, and we give incentives for consumers to share on those platforms, the merchants enlist basically their best customers ambassadors to actually acquire new customers for the business. So this is not like a sales pitch on Mowingo, so we'll not go through all the different features that we have, but what's really important to understand is that it's all pushed by a dashboard, which is offered as a software as a service, so the merchant doesn't need to install anything. They just log into a portal, and from there, they basically dictate what the consumer experience is going to be in the interaction with that particular store. The screenshot that you see, well, the screenshot beneath, like the far phone, the Google Nexus, is actually a loyalty card. And I can name 5 or 6 companies who did just a loyalty card inside a smartphone. It's a feature. But what you see on the forefront is basically the virtual mall of one particular consumer. And in this case, it's a restaurant, by the way. It's a good restaurant. It's in Santa Clara, not too far away. So if you want to get some good Chinese, Yan Can is one of them. But although I said several times that we are working with small merchants, it just happens to be that what works for small merchants is actually attractive for larger ones. And most of our experience over the last few months has been working with McDonald's. So there's a couple of dozen McDonald's here in the Bay Area where you can use Mowingo to interact with those particular McDonald's, and we are now moving to a larger relationship with McDonald's that would be regional both here and in a location in the Midwest, hopefully leading to a national deployment. Another thing, I mentioned earlier that different merchants use the platform to position themselves differently with the customers. The way that they also push the application to the consumer differs. So with McDonald's, they had no qualms of saying, hey, you download the application, you get a free coffee. So there was immediately a prize for downloading Mowingo. And also, while if you go to Yan Can, there's a small table tent that invites you to download Mowingo. If you drive through one of those McDonald's, there's a huge banner, right, of 15 feet by 2 or 3 with a QR code. So it's not subtle. Couple of words about QR codes. I actually blogged about it. I lost a bet. I thought that they are cute. They position ourselves as sexy, advanced, and so forth. But I thought it was just for geeks. In reality, we have now thousands of consumers using the platform. Over 60% of them acquire Mowingo by scanning a QR code versus a minority who are actually typing a URL. Also interesting is that we put the QR code, once we saw that QR codes are effective, we put it on the banner for the drive-thru as a teaser. We didn't imagine people rolling down their windows and actually scanning a QR code from their car. They do. So what we did, we used different QR codes for every type of advertising, a flyer as a QR code, the poster next to the drinking fountain as a QR code, and the banner as a QR code. And we see every day people scanning the banner from the drive-thru. So how is McDonald's using the platform? There's some branding. There's the obvious navigation map on how to get to the nearest McDonald's. They've uploaded to the platform their entire menu in an hierarchical way. They used to put prices, but as we had more locations, and because different locations have different prices, we yanked it out. So today it's informational. There are no prices. And obviously, you cannot order from McDonald's. You cannot call McDonald's and say, hey, I'm coming, prepare something, because their trick is that if you show up at the McDonald's, a minute later, you're out. So there's no need to pre-order anything. What we did do for them is a coupon. And it's a dynamic coupon. So our anti-fraud approach is basically an animation. So you cannot take a screenshot of the coupon and get your free coffee again and again and again. You just show the coupon. The coupon is a countdown, 2 minutes, 159, 158, et cetera. And then the minimum wage cashier at the McDonald's has been trained to do two things. One is look at the picture. Don't read anything. Don't look at the expiration date because the system takes care of that. Look at the picture. The picture tells you what the deal is, and at any given point in time, there might be 5 or 6 different deals. So it's not really difficult to remember which picture is associated with which deal. And then look for the cifras blancas, the white numbers that rotate, right? And that means it's a legitimate coupon and not somebody who took a screenshot and wants to defraud you. So that's what we did with McDonald's, but we are really not just about coupons. So a couple of other modalities of interactions. RSVP, okay? You have an event. In this case, it's for a sports club, a sports club, but we also work with a restaurant who does wine pairing event. So they would send you a push notification saying we have a wine pairing event. You can RSVP directly from the app. If you say yes, they would know about it, but you also have a calendar item in your iPhone calendar or Android calendar that will remind you to actually go there. And it's not just about burgers and fries and low-cost items. You'll be able to basically rent a Ferrari for a weekend using Mowingo. By the way, any guess of how much it would cost to rent a Ferrari for a weekend? 5,000. I can give you a break, but the list price is 5,000 for a weekend. So this brings us to payment. And we didn't start with payment thinking, OK, so now that we have a way to charge a credit card, what do we do with it? On the contrary, we don't have payments. We're now working. It's a roadmap item we're working on. This is why it's kind of dashed on that side. But it starts with interactions between the merchant and the dashboard, from which they get the analytics, they get the reports, they get everything that they need, but they also upload the information, such as the menus, the offers, the push notification, and so forth. A very good channel between the backbone and the devices themselves. Many companies use urban airship, not a bad idea. In our case, we did our own technology to connect the devices to our servers, because we believe that for a company like us, it's core competency. So if sending push notification is esoteric for you, go with urban airship. If this is the core of what you do, then probably you should do your own. But let's talk about payment here, which is this box that we're here to talk about. So we really want to leverage what are the best customer interactions for the medium. And one thing not to forget, it's a two-way channel, right? So I can send the best offer and don't take the offer just as a coupon, right? The offer could be an invitation, the offer could be information. Send the best communication, let's call it, to the right customer when they are walking by the store or whatever algorithm you define, but also get immediate feedback from the customer. Add social networking. But then, in terms of monetization of what we do, there's a play here which is maybe even bigger than the transaction play and the CRM value of the customer, which is the insights that one can gain from the data. So just as an example of how you can take it outside of the mobile realm, people are using their phones not only inside the store, but also outside the stores. And when you send them a push notification, you know where they reacted to that push notification. So now I'm able to go to McDonald's and say, look, your store is here, but your customers actually work in those high rises, and they live in those suburbs. So your next billboard, which is, again, nothing to do with mobile, it's another channel, right? Should be probably placed on 101 and not on 280. Okay, so this type of information. Now, tying back to payment, I want just to give 2 examples of how we see, how we would embed payments in the application. The first one is the takeout. So this push notification for an existing customer of OPA Greek cuisine could be triggered just because of frequency. We have not seen, what do you use, Joe? We have not seen Joe at OPA for a while, so we want to bring him back, and we're going to send him a push notification. It could be because we know that he's now currently in the neighborhood, and for sure, if we know he's now in New York on a business trip, we're not going to annoy him with a push notification. So this is way more powerful than an email or any other type of communication because of the GPS inherent with mobile. Joe gets the notification. By the way, our numbers show that about 27% click-through rate on those push notifications. So when our merchants send push notification, in almost a third of the cases, people don't just look at the notification, but actually act on it. They swipe the notification, they look at what is the deal that's behind it. So Joe reacts to the notification, composes its order directly from the application, submits it, drives to OPA. While he's driving, we already sent to the point of sale the exact dishes that are to be prepared, and then NFC. So now you just go and you wave your phone, payment is executed, and you can grab your lunch and leave the store. Another modality, so Papyrus. And again, it's CRM, right? It's not just about pushing stuff. It's about knowing things about your customers. So Papyrus invites customers to actually give them important dates for them, like birthdays, anniversaries, and so forth. At the right time, they can send a push notification saying, hey, this birthday coming, and by the way, you don't need to browse thousands of different birthday cards. We know your taste. We know you're going always for the black and white type of linotype graphics. That's what we're going to offer you. It's just 5, 6 different greeting cards. Jane chooses one. We can process payment directly from the smartphone. And then whether it's e-commerce because we ship the card, or it's m-commerce because she actually visits a local Papyrus store to pick it up, this is secondary. That doesn't really matter. So in conclusion, and again, it was not rocket science, our view is that mobile payments are a critical element, but they make sense only in the context of mobile commerce. Thank you very much.